I've run my own small business as a watchmaker. I'm the only Aboriginal watchmaker in the world. I said I'm not going to do either of those things. I'm going to become a rock star.
What do you mean by sovereignty? What does it essentially it means?
We've never owned our land. Our land is part of us. Our land is our mother. It's a family member.
What you're saying is you're not seeking sovereignty in full. You're seeking sovereignty in partial, wherever the land is available.
It's not only is it impossible, for me, that's an injustice to those people as well. We have been here for 65,000 years. Unfortunately, they failed. We are still here.
Before we get started, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode of our cutting-edge contemporary conversations. Thank you.
Welcome, Uncle James. How are you?
Good, thank you.
You have a very eclectic background and experience in terms of the work you have done. You have covered a lot of sectors in preparation of getting into politics, and you have run for politics for multiple times. But before we go into politics and then political views of yours, can you tell me your story growing up as a young man? How have your values formed, and how have you observed politics as an outsider now, very closely?
Well, that's an interesting story, actually. I'm Waka Waka. My country butts up to the northwestern outskirts of Meangan, which is Brisbane, right up through the centre of so-called Queensland. I don't call it Queensland anymore. I'm a Murray, so I call it Murrayland. So I've already renamed it because it's not the Queensland. It is Aboriginal land. And so growing up in outback Queensland, my dad was a stockman, my mum was a station cook, and pretty low socioeconomic. But when I was a young lad, like I'm a council worker now, my dad became a council worker. So he actually had a good working in local government, had a good steady job. But we're still in a country town, so I was kind of lucky that I wasn't far from my mum's grandfather. Lived completely traditional way on our country and only spoke his language. But he'd still come into town and visit her when she was young. And so we still had that connection there. But, when she got older and had me, he'd passed away by then, so I'd lost that connection. But I still had some connection to country and to community. But I didn't really understand the strength of that at the time. It wasn't until and my parents worked really hard, made sure we were all really well educated. All 7 of us kids have been to university, and 2 have PhDs and 2 have masters in their chosen fields. So mum and dad recognised the power of education, and that's why we were successful. But how the goal of, and I don't hesitate to say this, the goal of the colonisers of this country was to assimilate us into the British ways. And it kind of almost worked with us, but it didn't quite, because we still had that connection to our people. And as I got older, I strongly connected back into my community when I was about 25. And I find a lot of young Aboriginal people do that. They're not all that involved until they start to realise the power of your culture and your community, and you connect back into it so easily. 25, nearly 40 years ago. So ever since then, I've been connecting stronger and stronger and stronger to my community, because it's worth connecting to. My culture is beautiful.
And working across multiple sectors and in work experience, you have delved into tech, you have delved into many other sectors as well. But as an employee or as somebody who is observing the commerce side of business, how do you see the political environment supporting small and medium-sized businesses?
Well, I mean, it's a tough economic environment. But, that's one thing that I'm focused on. I've run my own small business as a watchmaker. I'm the only Aboriginal watchmaker in the world. That's the trade I did when I first left school, because mum and dad sat us all down after we finished grade 12. You either got to go to university or get a trade. And I said, I'm not going to do either of those things. I'm going to become a rock star, because I'd been playing semi-professionally for 3 years up until I finished grade 12. But I knew where mum and dad were coming from, and I had the opportunity to become a watchmaker. So then once I had my trade, and I worked for a tradesman for a few years, I ran my own business as a watchmaker in Meangan for 8 years before a friend tapped me on the shoulder. The drummer in the band I'd played with when I was 19 years old, when I was 29, she rang me up and she said, "Hey, Jimmy, because that's my rock star name.
Rock star name.
Yeah, that's my rock star name. She said, so she kept playing from when we were in band together when we were 19.
Yeah.
She kept building up her career, and she joined some fairly big name Australian bands, and she had another band that was quite established. And she said, we're losing our bass player, lead singer. Are you interested? I said, Debbie, I'm there. So I joined the band essentially immediately and went to join them. They were down the Gold Coast, actually, support act for Crowded House for a month. So I joined the band when the band I was in was a support act for Crowded House, which is a big name Australian act. And so that was pretty amazing. And I was glad I had the opportunity to play professionally as a musician and a singer, and I was also a professional actor at the time as well. So I've done a lot of acting through my career. But you want to talk about small business. So I do know that, I think the small business is the backbone of our country. I actually, I see, big business and particularly big coal mining companies and the uber rich, that's almost like a disease, It's so wrong. Whereas I'd rather see that we had much more small business that is thriving and healthy. And I will consider that when I'm in the parliament, how we will do that as well. It's important.
Coming back to watchmaking, what kind of watches did you made? The mechanical style?
We're called watchmakers, but what I actually am is I'm a horologist. So that's the actual real name for a person who repairs watches. And so we don't, although I have made a clock completely by hand on a lathe, making a watch, they're actually made by machines. So I do actually have what I call my own watch, but I imported the components from China. It's actually got a Seiko movement in it. So, but it manufactured in a cheaper factory, like an offshoot, and it's got the Aboriginal flag on the front.
Nice.
So I've made that, not entirely because you don't make watch movements anymore.
The same as Swiss watches. Most of the components are imported.
Yes.
And then they just
a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of Swiss watches that you buy, I'm talking about Tissot, Omega, even Rolex, they're all the movements come out of the Bourges SA factory in Switzerland. ESA, they make a movement and they'll sell it to anyone. So there's in a Rolex, it's actually a dedicated Rolex ESA movement in the Rolex watch. But it's just one factory making the same movement, and then the people put their name on the dial. And essentially what I did was just do the same thing. I just used an existing movement it is actually a citizen, it's not a Seiko movement, it's a citizen movement, a certain model, which is the most popular citizen movement in the world. So you buy my watch, citizen parts will fit into it. I don't have parts or spare parts or backup, but you don't need it because just use citizen parts for the movement. So what was your question? I tend to sort of go off in different
The question
tangents.
was, what kind of watches are you making? Are they mechanical? Are they quartz movement, or what kind of movement?
Well, I trained entirely on analog movements. So the Rados and Omegas and Petit Philippe and IWC and the IWCs, they're just beautiful. A lot of them make their own movements too, and the ones that make their own movements, they're the ones I enjoy the most. And I absolutely love doing it, and it's so specialised. And I was quite capable, and I'm so happy that I did that trade when I left school and up until I was 29. And and then there's the Seikos and the Citizens and all the, the Loris, the cheaper ones that are still good enough. I mean, there's hardly any difference in the, you pay $10,000, $20,000 for a watch. It's hardly different to a, one you might pay $200 for. There's not much difference at all.
I'm going off track because I like watches as well.
That's interesting.
So then now there's a new breed of micro brand watchmakers. So people like that this is one of a kind. So there are watchmakers across Europe who are making all watch by hand, everything by hand. It's a new movement and a new design. Everything is new. So it's one of 1,000. They're not duplicated. So people are buying more micro brands these days because, you need to have that because there's so many Rolexes out there, IWC. So you don't want to be one of many. You want to be one of few.
I wasn't aware of that, and I actually really love that.
So people are, so that those watchmakers are coming back. So there's a new wave of, they're called micro brands. They're not the bigger brands. They are individuals. So the watchmaker there's only one watchmaker in the whole organization, and he's the one only making the watches.
Oh, that's great.
So they are selling at a good price point, but it is just that artisanship or craftsmanship
course.
of watchmaking.
That's
is coming
unique.
Back,
It's beautiful.
Is coming back. Sorry,
I'd buy something like that. I mean, I'm glad
I would buy that.
I'm glad you told me that, because I wasn't aware of that, and I'd buy something like that because the others are just like, mass produced.
Yes, and if you've got a chance to listen to Russell Crowe, so Russell Crowe is sitting in his shed wherever he lives, and he's just talking about his watches. He has a watch collection, and he is telling stories about his watches, and it's an average angled camera sitting here, and he's just talking to the camera, and not to the camera. He's just saying, "This is a watch I want," with his voice, and he's telling stories about every watch he has met, the watchmaker who made the watch. So I think that kind of things are supporting craftsmen, watchmakers.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who still
and there are opportunities. People who are, because we are moving away from manufacturing. People are liking very much specialized, customized work done for you. Coming back to the politics side of it, when did the first intent you had? You were thinking strongly about politics or strong political opinions before politics opinions? When did it?
Well, I'll start. I didn't have a strong opinion at the time, but I'll start by saying that I joined the Labor Party when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been interested in politics for my entire life, and I think it was probably about there's really only 2010, I think, 15 years ago. I actually quit the Labor Party 20 years ago, and I joined the Greens, which is the party I'm in now, because they are the old Labor Party that I used to be in. The Labor Party aren't the same party as that I joined when I was 16. I'm talking about the type of Labor Party I liked was, Bob Hawke and Gough Whitlam and Bob Hawke and his name escaped me. Paul Keating, yeah. I mean, and then as time went by, I was handing out how to vote cards for Julia Gillard in 2007 with my red Labor T-shirt on. And that was when, and there's a reason why a big reason why I quit Labor at the time is because the Liberal Party had been in power and they introduced the Northern Territory intervention. So for me as an Aboriginal person being heavily connected to the Aboriginal community, we saw that as yet another invasion of their country. Because it was so heavily populated with Aboriginal people. I actually believe, and I know that Howard was a bit of a racist. I actually believe that he would have thought, wow, there's, that part of Australia is really, really traditional Aboriginal. We've got to take it over and turn it into the East Coast. That's the thought I had at the time. So, the Aboriginal community was really angry about the fact that when the Labor Party got in, we thought, okay, well, they're the party of social justice and human rights, and they'll cancel this Northern Territory intervention. They didn't. They strengthened it and continued it. And some people in the Aboriginal community called Jenny Macklin, this is not me, but this is what I heard some people say, they called her Genocide Jenny, because that's a Labor Party MP who was responsible for that. And they strengthened it and they kept it going. And I actually kept reaching out to them and saying, so when are you going to cancel the Northern Territory intervention? For 6 months, I think it was, or nearly a year, I never got a reply. And so I went, that's it. I quit the party, quit my responsibilities, and I thought, what am I going to do? At that time, I was just into politics and always handing out how to vote at election times, not that heavily involved. But then I joined the Greens it was about 20, when was it? Anyway, it was about 20 years ago. So it must have been about
2006.
2007, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, it was 2007, that election, I was handing out, and so it's a little less than 20 years. So I made the decision to quit the Labor Party, and it just so happened, funny thing is I was on a committee here in Melbourne City Council as the Aboriginal representative of the tree committee, because I'm into trees, I love trees, and I love country, of course. I've also done basic archaeology. I've got basic archaeology qualifications from La Trobe University as well. So I've worked on country in archaeological areas as well. So that's why I was on the tree team, the Aboriginal rep of the tree team. So I was, making decisions about the trees that actually would be growing in the city of Melbourne. And the chairperson of that committee there were two Greens councillors on that committee. And I was talking to her soon after, and she said, have you thought about joining the Greens? I went, no, I don't know much about the Greens. And so I actually joined the Melbourne branch for a little while. That's how I got introduced by a councillor on the City of Melbourne. And so then that was like, well, this is my new party. And really the Greens are the only party people should be voting for. We're the only party that cares about people and, social justice, human rights. My focus is on my community, actually having a good life, have been able to get good jobs. And, honestly, I'll say I'll put the rich and powerful last. And well, that's what they hate about the Greens. We're not focused on them. We're focused on better lives for our community, which is what I think is important. And that's what I'll be working for.
Talk about social justice. What do you essentially mean in terms of the real terms? Because yes, all people are equal. Everybody has given. Do you think opportunities are available equally to everybody, is it the quality of opportunity, or you have to just discriminate in terms of providing opportunities to people? So how do you see social justice operates in real terms?
Well, I see that's part of the government's responsibility is being able to focus in on social justice and human rights. I think there's one thing that you might have noticed about the Greens, and it's something I noticed heavily when I had my Greens T-shirt on and was handing out how to vote at the Pran by-election when our member quit. It was eventually won by the Liberals, but we should be able to take it back this time, we believe. But I'll never forget that day because we're the only party that strongly stands against the genocide in Palestine, and people are calling us Zionists. I'm not a Zionist. I care about everyone. And I'll never forget that day. I spent the entire day going to different polling booths 3 times. People saw my green shirt and they said, "We don't want Zionists here. You're a racist." I said, I'm not anti-Israel. I'm anti-genocide. That's what this is about. Because what is happening in that country is exactly what happened to my people 250 years ago. People from another country just came into my country and committed genocide against my people. That is a fact that Australia has to stand up to and realise and recognise and accept. What is going on in Israel is exactly what happened to my people. And our country was stolen off us. There's a lot of Australians who don't even recognise the fact that it's our country. Thank God more and more are recognising that, yes, this is Aboriginal land, always was, always will be. And, that's one of the biggest things we want. We want our sovereignty recognised and our land back. It's very important. Now, that's one thing I will really strongly fight for in the Parliament, particularly when you hear Jess Wilson saying we're going to reverse the treaty that Labor has introduced. They do some good things. That's a good thing that they did. They do a lot of bad things, and we know what they are. But one good thing they did was introduce that treaty. And I've got 2 friends that are, well, at least one person is a friend and one is an acquaintance, who are the co-chairs of Ngunnawal, which is the new version of the First Peoples Assembly. It's the body that will be doing the work on the treaty. And the work that they're proposing to do is just astounding. That couldn't have happened if the Labor Party didn't make it happen. And the Liberals are talking about, just cancelling the legislation altogether, removing the treaty. And for me, that's not going to happen. I will fight to make sure that doesn't happen. It's too important for Aboriginal people in this place, in this state.
And what do you mean by sovereignty? What does it essentially means from a legal point of view?
It's a hard thing to explain. We say sovereignty and ownership of the land. We've never owned our land. Our land is part of us. Our land is our mother. It's a family member. This is why it's hard to explain to, colonisers, like the British, who just like land and the earth and that everything is a commodity to be ripped up and sold for profit. We don't think like that at all. And it's hard when you say sovereignty because all we can relate to is that type of sovereignty where they have sovereignty over country. It's not exactly our relationship with country. But we have been here for 65,000 years. Long before, they've been here for a blink of an eye. They came and their goal was genocide. Their goal was to wipe us out, to kill us all off so that they could have this beautiful country. Unfortunately, they failed. We are still here. We are all still connected to our culture. A lot of us, my niece's daughter can speak my Waka Waka language. I can't because it was cut at that time. The goal was assimilation into the white man's ways. They failed. We know we're still here. All of my countrymen are still up there on Waka Waka land. That is my country. And it'll never be the colonizers' country.
And that's a bit of a strong conversation to be had with both sides, having their strong point of view and with evidence and facts and all of that stuff.
The facts are there. 1992, Mabo decision, terra nullius, thrown out the door. That was the lie that they used to steal our country for 200 years.
And what do you think about when again, I'm coming back to sovereignty, if that's the key, line conversations, or your intent is you want to fight for.
It's one of many.
One of the many, and because I think sovereignty probably would mean that the land was never seized in that language point of view.
It was never ceded.
Yeah, and how do you see that to be taken back? And what does that mean essentially? Is that all the land naming rights should be going back, which is happening?
Well, it is happening.
It's happening in some
but
places.
One thing that we have to be absolutely clear on, you hear these racists talk about, the Aboriginals are going to take your house, take your backyard. They're going to take your.
So
that's not how it's going to work. I mean, because it can't work. I consider everyone who is in Australia now, you're all Australians, right? If you own a block of land and it's your place that you actually worked hard for and paid for, I've got no interest in that. There's so much Crown land that can be recognised and handed back to the traditional owners of that country. Where, the poor old Wurundjeri won't get too much back because look at this. It's had this huge European footprint stamped on it. But there's still plenty of Wurundjeri country out there that's so beautiful, and a lot of that can be handed back to the traditional owners of this country, and also every traditional owner group right across this country. Their land, the Crown land, so-called Crown land, it's not Crown land. It was named that under the terra nullius lie. So that really cancels that out, doesn't it? But, what government is going to have the guts to do that? Well, I'll be pushing for that to happen. If I have a voice in the parliament, I'll be pushing for that to happen. In fact, I've already started thinking about how I would make it happen, although I haven't really talked much about it. I had this idea, and I've got to tell you about a bill that I would create and introduce into the parliament, and I've called it the Salt Bill.
The Salt Bill.
Salt. Okay. It's got nothing to do with salt or pepper, right? You'll understand the reason why in a moment. As a method of almost like land back. Have you heard the term pay the rent? You're on Aboriginal land. Pay the rent.
Yeah, I've heard those slogans, yes.
Yes. And that means you recognise you're on Aboriginal land and you will make some sort of reparation for the privilege of being on that land. And a lot of people, thousands of people do it. They actually pay money to the traditional owners where they live because they recognise that it's our sovereign land and they're up for paying the rent. Whereas a lot of people probably wouldn't. So my bill, it'd have to be a state-introduced bill, and it'd be almost like an additional tax. When you buy a property, this is almost controversial to say this, but it's true. When you buy a property from somebody who's probably bought it from somebody else, and then maybe the people before that, it was handed down to them by their parents, and then their parents bought it from somebody else, and the person before them actually probably bought it off the person who stole it off the Aboriginal people. Stole that piece of land off the Aboriginal people. You go back long enough, it was people actually went and squatted on that country, Aboriginal country, and basically asked the government for rights to fence this country off, and now it's mine. Eventually it was sold. So if they take that property and you buy it, right? They've stolen that property. They've stolen that. And you buy it, then under white man's law, you should be charged for receiving stolen goods, shouldn't you? You should, because you're receiving stolen goods. That was stolen off the traditional owners. And like a lot of people have trouble dealing with this or even understanding it. So then every property owner in Victoria or Australia, they all have to go to jail for receiving stolen goods, because that's the law under white man's law. You can be jailed for receiving stolen goods. And that's a fact of what happened, whether you believe it or not. So we can't obviously jail everyone in Australia, and plus who wants to jail all of their fellow Australians? But that's not the point. Along with sovereignty being recognised and land back, we'll also introduce the Stolen Aboriginal Land Tax, the SALT bill. And you would pay a small percentage. It would be collected by the state government. When you buy property, you pay a small percentage to the state government. They collect those funds and it goes directly to the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people if you live on Wurundjeri country. And I know that they struggle because they were nearly wiped out. They got down to 8 people in this place. They were nearly wiped out and they struggled to actually do all of the work they do. And probably over the last, 20, 30 years, the broader community in Naarm is reaching out to them more and more and more every day. So they're recognising them as how important they are and that they are the traditional owners. And they want them to do so many different things for the broader community. But they struggle because they don't have the numbers.
So in terms of what you're saying is,
give them
if I use your
capital
logic
for economic development.
If I use your logic to further not argue or extrapolate, what you're trying to say is you're not seeking sovereignty in full, you are seeking sovereignty in partial, wherever the land is available.
Sovereignty in full is impossible. We've got to accept that.
It's not full sovereignty, it's semi-sovereignty or partial sovereignty.
It's partial. Well, it's full sovereignty over Crown land, those areas of land that is Crown land, handed directly back to the Wurundjeri people or my people.
But by your definition, the sovereignty won't be full at all because it'll be partial.
It can't be full.
Yeah.
You've got to be realistic.
Because the families in the regional Victoria, they are farming for last 4 or 5 or 6 generations, or there are people who are living in the city of Melbourne for last 4
or 5 generations.
So you're not seeking a full sovereignty on all land. Well, it's just the partial idea that we were thinking of.
It's not only is it impossible for me. That's an injustice to those people as well. I mean, as far as they're concerned, that's their place. They've lived in for, been in my family for 100 years or something, But, I mean, that just wouldn't be fair.
And how do we come to a place when we all are seen as Australians? What has to happen for us to be in a space that, we all consider as brothers and sisters?
Well, I think things will start to become more corrected the way it should be is when we do actually... we all get our land back. And this is not just me talking. I listen to what my community is saying right around this country. We know, we recognise this is our country. It's belonged to my ancestors, and my ancestors have cared for this country for thousands and thousands of years. It's so-called Crown land, as I said. It's really no one's land. That can be given back immediately. All Crown land in this country should be given back immediately. And then, well, as far as I'm concerned, to anyone who comes from overseas and become an Australian citizen, you're welcome on my country. I welcome you on my country. As long as you recognise us and our sovereignty, that we are the traditional owners of the country that you are living on. I just want that recognised. We actually can't regain the sovereignty over that. These pieces of land where people own properties, we can't do that. That's just impossible. But I want the recognition from you as a individual that you're living on Aboriginal land, because that's a fact.
And I'm a first generation migrant to Australia, so I've become Australian citizen in last.
Well, you're an Aussie like me.
Yeah, and then not as we have gone through the whole process of becoming a citizen. We took an oath to stand with the values of all Australians as equals, right. and suppose the rights and freedoms for all Australians. But that conversation, what you're saying, that anybody who comes and wants to be Australian as a migrant should assume or should think about that Aboriginal people are the traditional owners of the land, has not been had with any. I would assume some majority of the people who have taken citizenships of Australia haven't had that conversation directly or indirectly.
Well, I probably can't talk about it too much, but I've actually I emceed a citizenship ceremony last year, and I was on stage with a Wurundjeri person who did the Welcome to Country, and we made a point of speaking about that. So the new Australians that day learnt the story that I'm telling you now. I'd like to see it happen in every citizenship ceremony right across this country. The fact that And so it's again just something else
Yes, we had the
I've got to
welcome to
do.
country at after the ceremony, but we didn't have what you're saying, that the expectation of all Australians who are new Australians should assume or should think about.
Just have a little bit of a
understanding.
5 minutes talking about the fact that yes, this country has been for 65,000 years the land of Aboriginal people, and the people who are coming from overseas have only been coming here for 250 years. I actually believe in multiculturalism. I think it's great. It's great for Australia, really, and you'll hear some politicians saying it's not. But, I welcome people from, as long as you commit to the values, and most people who do become Australian citizens commit to the Australian values, and that's great. But the next step is to recognise that First Nations people who have been here for 65,000 years, remains our sovereign land, but, as you say, it's partial sovereignty, because I'm not interested in taking people's backyards or anything like that. They worked hard for it, they paid for it, but I think it's a great idea to tax people to buy a house, give some people to the traditional money to the traditional owners, because that is a way that everyone can pay the rent easily.
From a point of view of the Victorian elections coming in November this year, what are the biggest challenges you are identifying as you're talking to your people in your area?
Well, there's community-specific things too, but, it's quite obvious that everyone's feeling the pinch with the cost of living and all that sort of stuff. But, we have our policies, even slogans, like tax the rich. There's a reason for that. There's people making insane amounts of money and dodging taxes, and then there's people who are, hardly have any money at all, who are really struggling to stay alive. That is so unfair. Obviously, so tax the rich. You could almost call us Robin Hood. Take from the rich and give to the poor. It's again social justice and equality. That's a big thing for some people I talk to. But as I was telling you a little bit earlier, I live in a quite affluent area, and quite conservative voters up the north of my electorate. Down south, they're pretty. We got a strong vote in the south of my electorate. Where we've got to win is in the north, and that's going to be hard. But there's all the local issues that are happening. I'll go there. We had a huge fight a couple of weeks ago with the state government because they cut down all these beautiful trees on one of our streets. And that's happening all over this country. There's not enough care for trees and not enough care for country. So I sound like a typical granny, right? I'm like hugging trees, but I care for country. It's just naturally what's inbuilt in me as an Aboriginal person. I care for country. And so I'll fight for trees. That's how my party started. Bob Brown was out there fighting for nature. Yeah, and I'm the same. So that's an issue. But obviously, there's we've got so many more cars on the road and creating so much more pollution, and it's killing the planet. We should be selling less cars and put more people walking or riding bikes or catching public transport. With using renewable energy, it's a no-brainer. I mean. But
the energy costs are going up with time, and that's also impacting the cost of living, because electrical power is used as an input cost to industries and organizations who are producing small products. So how do you see the energy costs can be controlled or managed or put down?
Well, renewable energy is far cheaper than coal-fired or gas-fired. Plus, they're also polluting, they're killing the planet as well, burning coal and gas, right? They're fossil fuels. We need to get out of fossil fuels and into renewables and solar and wind and water energy with battery storage right across the country. I think it was recently South Australia, there was a short amount of time when they operated entirely on renewable energy. It's doable. There's just no political will to actually make it happen. Well, there's not enough of a political will. I know that, Bowen's got the right sort of ideas of trying to get more people into electric cars. I've actually had an electric car for 4 years, run 100% off solar for 4 years. So I was really happy when I did that. And I'm in the process of buying another electric vehicle. You know, I'll probably be one of the first people in Australia that's on their second electric vehicle. Whereas I love the fact that, you know, this war and the Strait of Hormuz being closed, the petrol prices going up. It was just so wonderful to see all these people buying electric cars. As long as, you know, they get the picture about charging them off renewables and not, you know, like going to a gas station and charging it off energy that's been created by fossil fuels.
But when somebody's driving an electric vehicle, they're using power which is produced by coal, which is more dirtier in terms of. So one energy source is coal, which powers the car to be recharged, and the other fuel is petrol, which is, you know, less carbon emission.
But that's not what's happening. My car has run for 4 years, 80% of the time off the sun. I purposely I wouldn't even know what the cost of petrol is. And I don't even know where service stations are anymore. So my car isn't running off coal. That's what there's a lot of lies out there about that. The majority of people, a lot of people that I know, in fact, go, well, you know, I've got solar panels on the roof of my house. I buy an electric car, spend a few $1,000s, putting in like a Fronius controller or something like that, the solar, and then a lot of people are, if they can afford it, then putting a battery in their garage. So you can, it's 100% easy to right now run your electric car off your solar panels that you're in your home 100% of the time. Never have to, and that should be the goal for everyone. Stop burning coal. Because people say this, like this electric car, it still runs off coal. Mine doesn't. I charge with solar panels, or I charge at my workplace, and my workplace buys 100% renewable energy because it's a, you know, progressive workplace thinking about trying to help to stamp out fossil fuels and you know, burning fossil fuels. So don't say that people are burning coal to create the energy to fill up your electric car. That's completely untrue, and people need to stop saying it.
Not everybody can charge the car.
Some people will.
They will charge when they want to.
Yeah, they'll charge when they want to.
Yeah, so, you know, it'll be, you know.
But the idea then is, you know, the coal and the gas that's behind creating that energy to charge the car is replaced by renewables.
If you see the current polling numbers, you know, federally, you can see primary votes going towards. It's been splitting the primary vote towards One Nation, and One Nation primary votes are going up, and which is coming from Liberal Party and partly from Labour.
Partly from Labour as well.
So what do you see that trend, because there are a couple of elections already happened, one in the seat of Farah and South Australian elections. And do you think that trend will flow into Victorian elections?
I believe it will a little bit, because I've just, like, you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the community, and a lot of people are saying that they're going to vote for One Nation. There's a lot of people saying they're going to do it. So this will be a really interesting election because I reckon there'll be far more representation from you know, Fond in this election, and some people, both Labor and Liberals, will lose their seats. I don't really think Greens voters who would be Greens voters. In fact, what I believe is, like, Labor is on the nose everywhere, right across this country. And I believe a lot of people will go, well, you know, I don't want to vote for Labor anymore. I'm nowhere near, like, I can see, you know, what One Nation's all about. There's just no way I'm going to vote for them. And like, because, you know, I just, like, sometimes I've actually signed up for some of her social media to listen to her talk. God, she tells so many lies. It's not funny. And people are falling for it. That's the problem. So they're like, and, you know, it's what's going on in Farrar and also Trump in America, you know, Nigel Farrar. You can see it's happening right across. People are disillusioned with the two old parties, and they're going down. Look at the numbers. Like the last federal election, I was the Greens candidate for my area, and we're like, the Greens are supposedly around about 12% right across Australia. Last election before last time, we got 18%. This time I got nearly 23%. The Liberals only got 29. They were up around 35 previously, and Labor was 45. We are going up, and Labor and the Liberals are coming down. So people are not voting for them anymore. I'd love to see more independents as well. You know, there's lots of good independents out there. Community independents, they really want to fight for their community. And but this is going to be interesting because people will be deserting Labor and the Liberals at this election, and they'll either be coming to us or One Nation.
The next election, the bigger. Have you observed the state debt, which has gone very high? It's just building up every year. So, what's the financial or economic policy or fiscal policy you are observing, and as a party, what's your stance?
As a party, it again comes back to the fact that so many people who are quite well off, really rich people, who are dodging taxes and making a lot of money. It's one of our main economic principles is to more even distribution of wealth in the community, our entire community. Tax the rich.
But how do
they're getting away
rich?
with it.
How do you define rich? Who's rich?
Well, I mean, you can get the tax or the details of companies that are actually earning a lot of money, like Gina Reinhardt, for example. People like them that have got insanely ridiculous amounts of money, and they just keep making more. I mean, I feel that's an illness. You've got so much money you don't need, yet you really work really hard to make more and more money out of that money, and it's going nowhere but to you. That is so wrong. And I mean, you'd have to get into, like, we actually have, people have said, well, if the Greens get into power, I don't see any good financial management. I mean, that's not my area of expertise, but I do actually know, like, I won't mention a name, but the treasurer of the Australian Greens, I've worked with her for a couple of years. She's amazing. They're the type of people who make this policy, the people who actually are financially astute. And we know it's true. We know what is happening is true. And that's why our policy is tax the rich. I'm not going to make it happen because I'm not a financial expert. I mean, I have to do some financial work as a manager at work, but that's the limit. I just do what I have to do. If I had any interest in that, I'd be an accountant. Like, I've got an interest in flying planes, and I actually applied for a cadetship in Qantas when I was 45, and they said I was too old, which is fair. But anyway, I just got a reminder yesterday that the membership of my flying club is up due for a year. So I do actually, I've got the president of our club is a qualified trainer. So I do actually get to fly under his supervision. And I'm going to get my license soon. Something I've always wanted to do is fly planes.
Okay. In terms of going forward, you have next 3 months, 4 months available for campaigning. So what's your campaign strategy? How you going to the campaigning?
We're really starting to ramp up now, getting more volunteers. And this was when we were planning to ramp up, and I've actually got my campaign launch in a couple of weeks, and I'm trying to get as many people to come along to that, where we'll do a heavy recruitment drive. And also the aim of the launch is to do some fundraising as well, build up our, our chest of funds to actually do all of the things that we want to do. But we've done a lot of planning so far, and we've done just letterbox distributions, and it's really been like planning and letterbox distributions. And we've done a few events, but we know we've got our campaign plan, and we're launching it basically next month, which is next week, right? So that's when it's going to start, 4 months out, and we're really going to get stuck into it. We need a lot more volunteers. We just don't have enough volunteers yet. But once we've got those volunteers, and that's what we're going to do in a couple of weeks' time, is recruit a lot more volunteers, because we want to get out there and knock on doors. We want to have community stalls in every single suburb in my electorate, to make sure that I'm out there talking to the community. It'll just be a repeat of what I've been doing in my community for the last 10 years anyway. My community knows me as a strong community advocate. And if something is going on in my community, I'm out there fighting for them, and have been for 10 years. Sort of coincides with when I started running as well, running for Parliament. It's like, I'm a strong community member, and I want to get into the Parliament to serve my community. Unlike the two old parties who are serving somebody else. We know who they are.
In conclusion, if you can tell me what's the best political advice or life advice you have received?
First thing I thought of it was one really bad thing. I actually, when I met John Howard, I played a gig, but that was a negative thing, so I don't want to talk about that. But I don't know. I really love Paul Keating, and like, without actually personally meeting him or speaking to him about the best advice, I still watch speeches and him in the Parliament and how he manages everything. So I've got a lot of admiration for Paul Keating, and even though I couldn't remember his name before. And so I've got a lot of advice from him. And he's been a big hero and big influence on my political life. And, you know, nothing like Albanese is like nothing like the old guard, you know? And they're so wishy-washy and pretend they care about the community, and they do some things to make it look like it, but they never do enough. And in the background, all they're doing is looking after their coal mining mates and making the rich richer. So they're two-faced, the Labor Party.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.